The Galactic Council Chamber was a blend of sleek, futuristic architecture and ancient ceremonial grandeur. Representatives from the major star systems were seated in a circular arrangement, their holographic displays flickering with the crests of their respective civilizations. The air was charged with a palpable tension as the High Chancellor, a stern figure with piercing eyes, stood at the center of the chamber. "Members of the Galactic Council," his voice boomed, echoing through the chamber. "We are gathered here to discuss the dire situation on Zorathia. The Draconian Dominion has made its intentions clear. They seek total domination of the Zorathian system." Princess Zephyra sat in her designated seat, her regal bearing unshaken despite the gravity of the situation. Her long silvery hair cascaded down her back, and her vibrant violet eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of support. She knew that her people were on the brink of annihilation, and the fate of her planet hung in the balance. "The Draconians will not stop until they have enslaved my people and plundered our resources," Zephyra spoke, her voice steady but filled with an underlying urgency. "We must act now to prevent a catastrophe." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but it was quickly silenced by the High Chancellor's raised hand. "Princess Zephyra, while your concerns are valid, we must consider the greater good of the galaxy. An open conflict with the Draconian Dominion could lead to widespread destruction." Zephyra's heart sank. She had feared this response. The Council's desire to avoid war often led to inaction, and her people were paying the price. She needed to find a way to make them see the urgency of the situation. "High Chancellor, members of the Council," she implored, "if we do nothing, Zorathia will fall, and the Draconians will not stop there. They will continue their campaign of terror, spreading chaos throughout the galaxy. We must stand together and defend our shared values of peace and freedom." The chamber fell silent as the council members exchanged glances. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke again. "Princess Zephyra, we understand your plight. However, the Council has decided that the best course of action is to place you in protective exile. This will prevent the Draconians from using you as leverage and give us time to devise a more comprehensive strategy." Zephyra felt a wave of despair wash over her. Exile. It felt like a death sentence for her people. But she had no choice. The Council's decision was final. She bowed her head, accepting their verdict, but vowed silently that she would find a way to save her planet no matter the cost. Her attire, once the elegant garb of a royal, was now tattered and dirty. She stumbled through the forest, her mind racing with thoughts of her home and the uncertain future that awaited her. Suddenly, she heard a rustle behind her. She spun around ready to defend herself, but instead found herself face to face with a young human. Jason, a university student with a penchant for astronomy and extraterrestrial life, had been hiking in the forest when he stumbled upon the crash site. His curiosity quickly turned to shock as he took in the sight of Zephyra. Despite her disheveled appearance, there was an undeniable air of nobility about her. Are you okay?" he asked hesitantly, taking a cautious step forward. Zephyra, recognizing that she needed help, nodded slowly. "I am lost," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion and desperation. "I need your help." Jason, though still reeling from the unexpected encounter, extended a hand. "Come with me, I'll help you." He led Zephyra back to his apartment, explaining that they needed to keep her presence a secret. The world was not ready to learn about extraterrestrial life, and the authorities would likely complicate matters. Zephyra, grateful for his assistance, agreed. In the safety of Jason's small apartment, Zephyra began to adapt to her new surroundings. Jason introduced her to Earth's customs and technology, explaining everything from basic human interactions to advanced scientific concepts. He provided her with clothes to help her blend in, and they worked on creating a believable backstory for her enrollment at the university. Days turned into weeks, and Zephyra's initial fear began to dissipate. She marveled at Earth's beauty and complexity, finding solace in the kindness of her new friend. Jason, in turn, was fascinated by Zephyra's tales of her homeworld and the vastness of the galaxy. They spent hours talking, learning from each other, and building a bond that transcended their differences. One evening, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city, Zafira spoke of her hope for her people. "I cannot abandon my home, Jason. The Draconians are relentless, and my people need me." Jason looked at her, determination in his eyes. "We'll find a way to help them, Zafira. You're not alone in this." Zafira's new life at the university was a whirlwind of experiences, unlike anything she had ever known. The campus, with its sprawling lawns and modern buildings, was a far cry from the ornate palaces and advanced cities of Zorathia. Jason helped her navigate the complexities of human society, and with his guidance, she began to blend in. Adopting the identity of Zara, an exchange student from a distant country, Zafira faced the daily challenges of fitting in with Earth's culture. The first hurdle was the language barrier. Although she had a basic understanding of English, she had to quickly master the nuances of human communication. Jason's patient tutoring paid off, and soon Zafira was conversing fluently, though her accent and formal speech sometimes drew curious glances. Classes were another challenge. Despite her advanced knowledge of science and technology, Earth's academic system was unfamiliar. She enrolled in courses that would both cover her identity and allow her to learn more about human society. History classes fascinated her the most. Learning about humanity's past struggles, triumphs, and cultural evolution gave her a deeper appreciation for the planet she now called home. Social interactions proved to be the most daunting. Zafira, accustomed to royal etiquette and formal gatherings, had to adapt to the casual and sometimes chaotic nature of university life. Jason introduced her to his friends, who were initially skeptical of the mysterious new student, but soon warmed up to her kind demeanor and insightful perspectives. Her natural curiosity and genuine interest in learning about Earth helped her forge connections. Despite her growing comfort, Zafira remained vigilant. She knew the Galactic Council's enforcers would not stop searching for her, and any slip-up could draw unwanted attention. Jason and Zafira established routines and safe zones, always staying one step ahead. They used encrypted communication devices to stay connected with Professor Reynolds and the Terran Alliance, ensuring their plans and movements remained confidential. One evening, while working on an assignment in the library, Zafira noticed a figure watching her from the shadows. Her instincts sharpened, and she discreetly signaled Jason. They left the library separately, rendezvousing in a secluded park. Jason reassured her that it was likely a coincidence, but Zafira's unease grew. She knew the enforcers were getting closer. The pressure of maintaining her cover began to weigh on her. During a study session, Jason noticed her growing anxiety. "We're going to get through this, Zara," he said, using her Earth name to remind her of her new identity. "You're doing great. We'll keep you safe." Far from Earth, in the cold reaches of space, Captain Dracar stood on the bridge of the Galactic Council's flagship, the Eclipse. The ship was a marvel of engineering, equipped with the latest tracking technology and weaponry. Dracar, a towering figure with a reputation for ruthlessness, was determined to capture Princess Zafira and bring her back to face the Council's judgment. Dracar's crew, a mix of seasoned enforcers from various star systems, operated with military precision. The captain's piercing gaze swept over the control panels and holographic displays, scrutinizing every detail of their mission. He knew the stakes were high. The Council had given him full authority to use any means necessary to retrieve the fugitive princess. "Status report," Dracar barked, his voice echoing through the bridge. "Captain, we've traced the escape pod to the Sol system," replied Lieutenant Rena, his second in command. "We've detected unusual energy signatures on the third planet, Earth. It's likely she's hiding there." Dracar nodded, a predatory smile curling on his lips. "Set course for Earth. Prepare the landing teams. We will find her, and we will bring her back." The Eclipse altered its course, slicing through the void of space towards Earth. Dracar knew that time was of the essence. Every moment Zafira remained free was a threat to the Council's authority. He assembled his best operatives, briefing them on the mission and the importance of discretion. Earth was an unaligned planet, and any overt action could draw unwanted attention. As the ship entered Earth's orbit, the enforcers deployed in stealth shuttles, cloaked to avoid detection by the planet's primitive technologies. They established a covert base of operations in a remote location, setting up surveillance equipment and scanning for any signs of the princess. The hunt had begun. Drakkar and his team worked tirelessly, analyzing data and cross-referencing sightings. They soon identified a pattern, an unusual spike in encrypted communications originating from a university. Drakkar's instincts told him this was no coincidence. "Lieutenant Rena, deploy a reconnaissance team to the university," Drakkar ordered. "If the princess is there, we will flush her out." The enforcers moved swiftly, blending in with the local population. They observed the campus, noting every detail and identifying potential targets. Their surveillance paid off when they spotted Zafira, now disguised as Zara, moving through the campus with Jason. Drakkar's eyes gleamed with triumph. "We have her. Prepare the extraction team. But remember, we must not attract attention. The Council's directive is clear." Under the cover of night, the enforcers closed in. Zafira and Jason, unaware of the imminent danger, continued their routine, though Zafira's instincts told her something was amiss. The enforcers, skilled in stealth and subterfuge, waited for the right moment to strike. The showdown was inevitable. As Zafira and Jason left a late-night study session, the enforcers made their move. But Zafira's heightened senses alerted her just in time. She and Jason fled through the darkened campus, narrowly escaping the enforcers' grasp. Breathing heavily, they regrouped at their safe house. Jason quickly relayed the encounter to Professor Reynolds and the Terran Alliance. The chase was on, and they knew the enforcers would not relent. Drakkar, though frustrated by their escape, remained undeterred. He tightened his surveillance, his resolve hardening. The hunt for Princess Zafira had intensified, and he would stop at nothing to complete his mission. As they crossed a deserted park, Zafira's senses tingled with a familiar feeling of impending danger. She grabbed Jason's arm, pulling him to a halt. "They're here," she whispered, her eyes scanning the shadows. Before Jason could respond, figures emerged from the darkness, encircling them. Captain Drakkar stepped forward, his menacing presence dominating the scene. "Princess Zafira," he announced, his voice dripping with contempt. "You will come with us. Resistance is futile." Jason stepped protectively in front of Zafira, his heart pounding. "Leave her alone," he demanded, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. Drakkar smirked, amused by the human's bravado. "And who are you to defy the Galactic Council?" He signaled his enforcers to move in. Zafira, drawing upon her royal training, moved with lightning speed. She disarmed the first enforcer who lunged at her, using his own weapon to fend off the others. Jason, though less skilled in combat, used his quick thinking to create distractions, throwing objects and using the environment to their advantage. The battle was intense, with Zafira and Jason fighting side by side. Zafira's agility and strength were formidable, but the enforcers were relentless. Just as it seemed they would be overwhelmed, a sudden burst of light blinded their attackers. A group of masked figures, members of the Terran Alliance, descended upon the scene, their advanced weaponry quickly incapacitating the enforcers. "Come on, we need to move," one of the masked figures shouted, grabbing Zafira's hand and leading her and Jason to safety. They raced through the city, finally arriving at a hidden entrance to an underground network. Once inside, their rescuers removed their masks, revealing familiar faces from the Terran Alliance. Professor Reynolds stepped forward, his expression grave. "We've been monitoring the enforcers' movements," he explained. "We knew it was only a matter of time before they found you." Zafira nodded, her heart still racing from the encounter. "Thank you for your timely intervention. We need to come up with a plan to stay ahead of them." Jason, catching his breath, added, "And we need to find a way to contact the Zorathian resistance. We can't keep running forever." Reynolds agreed. "We have a secure location where we can regroup and plan our next steps. The Terran Alliance is committed to helping you, Princess. We won't let the Council take you." As they made their way deeper into the underground hideout, Zafira felt a renewed sense of hope. She and Jason had allies who were willing to fight for their cause. The battle was far from over, but with the support of the Terran Alliance, they had a fighting chance. Professor Reynolds introduced Zafira and Jason to the core members of the Terran Alliance, including Mira, a former intelligence officer, and Raj, a brilliant engineer. "We've been in contact with various alien species for decades," Reynolds explained. Our goal is to protect Earth and support those who fight against tyranny in the galaxy." Mira stepped forward, her eyes sharp and calculating. "We've gathered intelligence on the Draconian Dominion and the corrupt elements within the Galactic Council. With your help, Princess, we can expose their actions and rally support from other star systems." Zafira listened intently, her resolve hardening. "What do you need me to do?" Raj brought up a schematic on the holographic map. "We've identified a remote Terran outpost equipped with a powerful transmitter. If we can get there, we can send a secure message to the Zorathian resistance. It's heavily guarded, but with a coordinated effort, we can infiltrate it." Jason, ever the strategist, chimed in. "We'll need to create a diversion to draw the enforcers away from the outpost. Once we have control of the transmitter, we can send the message and get out before they realize what's happening." The plan was set into motion. Over the next few days, the Terran Alliance gathered supplies and prepared for the mission. Zafira trained with Mira, honing her combat skills and learning new tactics. Jason worked closely with Raj to understand the technical aspects of the transmitter and how to operate it. On the day of the mission, the team moved under the cover of night. Using cloaking devices and stealth techniques, they made their way to the Terran outpost. Jason and Zafira, along with a small strike team, infiltrated the perimeter while another group created a diversion, drawing the enforcers away. Inside the outpost, they encountered resistance, but Zafira's combat prowess and Jason's quick thinking allowed them to overcome the guards. Raj guided them remotely, helping them navigate the facility and reach the transmitter. With the transmitter in sight, Zafira took a deep breath. "This is it. We have to make sure the message gets through." Jason nodded, activating the device. "Raj, we're in position, initiating transmission." The holographic interface sprang to life, and Zafira recorded a heartfelt message to the Zorathian resistance, detailing the situation and calling for their aid. As the transmission was sent, alarms blared throughout the outpost. The enforcers had realized the diversion and were closing in. "We need to move now," Jason shouted, grabbing Zafira's hand as they raced out of the facility. The team fought their way back to the extraction point, where a Terran Alliance shuttle awaited. Just as the enforcers closed in, they launched into the sky, escaping the outpost and leaving their pursuers behind. Back at the underground hideout, the atmosphere was tense, but hopeful. Zafira's message had been sent, and now they could only wait for a response. As they regrouped and tended to their injuries, Zafira looked around at her newfound allies, feeling a sense of gratitude and determination. "We've taken the first step," she said, her voice steady. "Now we wait and prepare for what comes next. With the Terran Alliance by our side, we will not fail." The days following the successful transmission were filled with anticipation. Zafira, Jason, and the Terran Alliance members worked tirelessly to prepare for the next phase of their plan. They needed to establish contact with the Zorathian resistance and coordinate efforts to take down the Draconian Dominion and expose the corruption within the Galactic Council. In a dimly lit strategy room deep within the Terran Alliance hideout, Zafira and Jason stood before a large holographic map of the galaxy. Surrounding them were key members of the Alliance, including Professor Reynolds, Mira, and Raj. The room was a hub of activity, with operatives coming and going, relaying information and updates. Based on the intel we received from the transmission, the Zorathian resistance is still operational, but they are scattered and in need of leadership, Mira explained, pointing to various hotspots on the map. Their primary base is located in the mountain ranges of Zorathia's northern continent, but it's well hidden to avoid detection by Draconian forces. Zafira studied the map, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to reach them and unite their efforts. If we can rally the resistance, we can launch a coordinated strike against the Draconians and their allies within the Council." Raj nodded, his fingers dancing over a control panel. "We've identified a potential route to Zorathia. There's an old smuggling corridor through the outer rim that should allow us to avoid Draconian patrols. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Jason, ever the strategist, added, "We'll need a diversion to draw attention away from our departure. A series of coordinated strikes on Draconian supply lines should do the trick. It will buy us enough time to reach Zorathia undetected." Professor Reynolds stepped forward, his expression serious. The stakes are high. If we fail, the Draconians will tighten their grip on Zorathia and the Council. But if we succeed, we can turn the tide and bring hope to countless star systems. Zafira felt a surge of determination. Let's do it. We'll contact the Resistance, unite our forces, and take back my home. With the plan set, preparations began in earnest. The Terran Alliance mobilized their resources, gathering supplies and coordinating with other sympathetic groups across the galaxy. Jason and Zafira trained rigorously, honing their skills for the upcoming mission. Every moment was critical, and they knew the odds were against them. The day of departure arrived. Under the cover of darkness, a small fleet of Terran Alliance ships prepared to launch. Jason and Zafira, along with a hand-picked team of operatives, boarded the lead ship. As the engines roared to life, they felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Stay safe," Professor Reynolds said, clasping Zafira's hand. "We'll be monitoring your progress and providing support from here." Zafira nodded, her eyes filled with resolve. "We won't let you down. This is our chance to make a difference." Inside the command center of their lead ship, Zafira and Jason monitored their progress. Raj, acting as the fleet's navigator, guided them through the intricate web of obstacles. "We're approaching the final stretch," he announced, his voice calm but focused. "If we maintain this course, we'll reach Zorathia in a few hours." Zafira nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of her homeland. "We'll need to make contact with the Resistance as soon as we arrive. They need to know we're coming and that we bring reinforcements." Mira, who had been coordinating communications, added, "We've managed to secure a tight beam transmission channel. It should allow us to send a message without alerting the Draconian forces." Jason, standing by Zafira's side, squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We're almost there. Stay strong." As the fleet approached Zorathia, they received a transmission from the Resistance. General Kale, a loyalist to the royal family, appeared on the screen. His rugged face and stern expression softened slightly upon seeing Zafira. "Princess, it's an honor to see you alive. We've been fighting a losing battle, but your return gives us hope." Zafira's eyes shone with determination. "General Kale, we're bringing reinforcements and supplies. We need to unite our efforts and strike back against the Draconians. What's the situation on the ground?" Kale's expression grew grim. "The Draconians have fortified their positions around the capital. They've set up advanced defenses and patrols. But we've managed to keep a foothold in the northern mountains. It's our best chance for launching a counterattack." Raj analyzed the data, formulating a plan. "We can land in the mountain ranges and link up with your forces. From there, we can coordinate a multi-pronged assault on the capital. It won't be easy, but with the element of surprise, we have a chance." The fleet descended towards Zorathia, their ships slipping through the planet's atmosphere undetected. They landed in the rugged terrain of the northern mountains, greeted by the weary but determined Resistance fighters. Zafira and Jason disembarked, taking in the sight of their new allies. General Kale approached, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and respect. "Welcome home, Princess. We've been waiting for this moment." Zafira clasped his hand. "Thank you, General. Together we'll take back our planet and restore peace." The makeshift war room buzzed with activity as Resistance leaders and Terran Alliance operatives finalized their plans for the coordinated assault on Draconian positions. Maps and holographic projections filled the room, detailing enemy fortifications and potential weaknesses. Zafira, Jason, General Kale, and the core team worked tirelessly, knowing that every detail could mean the difference between victory and defeat. As they prepared for the upcoming mission, an unexpected development threw their plans into chaos. A trusted member of the Resistance, Lieutenant Varric, suddenly drew his weapon and aimed it at Zafira. "This ends now," he snarled, his eyes filled with betrayal. Before anyone could react, Varric activated a hidden beacon, signaling the Draconian forces. Instantly, the war room was plunged into chaos as Draconian soldiers stormed the facility, weapons blazing. Zafira and Jason dove for cover, returning fire alongside their allies. General Kale's voice boomed over the chaos. "We've been compromised. Fall back to the secondary position." As Resistance fighters scrambled to defend themselves, Zafira and Jason fought their way through the ambush. Mira and Raj provided covering fire, helping to repel the draconian assault. The battle was fierce, with casualties mounting on both sides. Varek's betrayal had caught them off guard, and the enemy pressed their advantage. Zafira's royal training and Jason's quick thinking proved invaluable as they navigated the chaotic battlefield. Zafira engaged in hand-to-hand combat with a draconian soldier, using her agility to disarm and incapacitate him. Jason hacked into the enemy's communication network, creating confusion and buying time for their escape. Despite their efforts, the resistance suffered heavy losses. General Kale led a fighting retreat, ensuring that as many of his people as possible made it to the secondary position. The Terran Alliance operatives covered their retreat, using advanced technology to create barriers and slow the enemy's advance. Breathing heavily, Zafira and Jason reached the secondary position, a hidden underground bunker. The survivors regrouped, their faces etched with grief and determination. General Kale addressed the room, his voice steady despite the betrayal. "We've taken a hard hit, but we will not give up. We have to regroup and adapt our strategy. The Draconians won't stop until they've crushed us, but we will stand firm." Zafira stepped forward, her eyes blazing with resolve. "We must expose Varek's betrayal and rally our forces. This fight is far from over. We will not let his treachery be the end of us." With renewed determination, the Resistance and their Terran allies prepared to strike back. They could not afford to lose hope, not when so much was at stake. Suddenly, a communication alert flashed on the holographic display. It was a secure transmission from an approaching fleet. General Kale quickly answered the call, and the image of a stern-faced Zorathian officer appeared. "General Kale, this is Captain Thara of the Zorathian Resistance Fleet. We received your distress signal and are en route to provide reinforcements. Hold your position. We'll be there in a few hours." A wave of relief washed over the room. Zafira's message had reached its intended recipients, and help was on the way. Zafira stepped forward, addressing Captain Thara. "Captain, your arrival is timely. We've been compromised, but with your support, we can still turn the tide." Captain Thara nodded. "Understood, Princess. We're bringing advanced weaponry and additional troops. We'll coordinate our arrival to strike the Draconian forces from multiple fronts." As the transmission ended, the bunker erupted in renewed energy. Preparations for the Resistance's arrival began in earnest. Jason worked with Raj to ensure that their communication systems were fully operational, while Zafira and Mira organized the remaining troops and briefed them on the revised battle plan. Hours later, the sound of approaching ships filled the underground bunker. The Resistance fleet had arrived, their sleek vessels cutting through the sky. Zafira and Jason joined General Kale at the surface entrance, watching as the fleet descended and landed in the mountain valley. Captain Thara emerged from her command ship, flanked by elite Zorathian soldiers. She greeted Zafira with a respectful bow. "Princess, we're at your command. Let's take back our home." The combined forces of the Resistance and the Terran Alliance quickly moved into position. The plan was to launch a simultaneous assault on key Draconian strongholds, using the element of surprise to their advantage. Zafira and Jason would lead the charge on the capital, aiming to cut off the head of the Draconian occupation. As the final preparations were made, Zafira addressed the assembled troops. "Today, we fight not just for Zorathia, but for the freedom of all who suffer under tyranny. We have the strength, the resolve, and the unity to prevail. Let's show the Draconians that we will not be broken." With a collective roar of determination, the combined forces launched their assault. The valley echoed with the sounds of battle as they engaged the Draconian defenses. Zafira, Jason, and their strike team moved with precision, targeting critical infrastructure and disrupting enemy communications. The battle raged on, with both sides sustaining heavy losses. Zafira and Jason fought valiantly, their bond strengthening with each challenge they overcame. They reached the outskirts of the capital, where the final confrontation awaited. Captain Thara's forces provided crucial support, their advanced weaponry and tactical expertise turning the tide in favor of the Resistance. As the Draconian defenses crumbled, Zafira and Jason led the charge into the heart of the capital, determined to end the occupation and reclaim their home. The fight for Zorathia had reached its critical moment, and with the Resistance's arrival, victory was within their grasp. Their goal was clear: infiltrate the Central Command Center, expose the draconian corruption, and rally the remaining loyalists within the city. The Command Center, a towering structure fortified with the latest draconian technology, loomed ahead. Zephyra felt a surge of determination as they approached the heavily guarded entrance. Jason, using a portable hacking device, bypassed the security systems. The team slipped inside, moving silently through the dimly lit corridors. Zephyra led the way, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and resolve. They encountered several draconian soldiers, but the team's training and advanced weaponry allowed them to neutralize the threats quickly and quietly. As they neared the central control room, they overheard a heated discussion. Zephyra signaled for the team to halt and listen. Inside, draconian officers argued about their dwindling resources and the growing resistance. One voice, calm and authoritative, stood out: Lord Vargos, the draconian leader overseeing the occupation. "We must crush the resistance at all costs," Vargos declared. "The Council's plans depend on our success here." Zephyra and Jason exchanged a determined glance. This was their chance to gather the evidence they needed. Jason hacked into the control room's surveillance system, recording the conversation. With the incriminating evidence secured, they prepared to confront Vargos. Bursting into the control room, Zephyra and her team took the draconian officers by surprise. Vargos, a towering figure clad in ornate armor, turned to face them, his eyes narrowing in recognition. "Princess Zephyra," he sneered, "I should have known you would return." Zephyra stood tall, her voice unwavering. "Your reign of terror ends now, Vargos. The galaxy will see the truth of your corruption." A fierce battle erupted in the control room. Zephyra engaged Vargos in a one-on-one duel, their weapons clashing with sparks flying. Vargos was a formidable opponent, his strength and skill honed by years of conquest. But Zephyra fought with the determination of someone defending her home and her people. As they fought, Jason and the strike team subdued the remaining draconian officers and secured the control room. Jason broadcasted the recorded conversation across all communication channels, ensuring that the truth about the draconian occupation and the corrupt elements within the Galactic Council reached every corner of the city and beyond. With a final powerful strike, Zephyra disarmed Vargos and held her blade to his throat. "Yield," she commanded. Vargos, his defiance waning, sneered one last time before complying. Zephyra and her team quickly restrained him, securing the control room. The tide of the battle outside began to turn as the Loyalists, inspired by the broadcasted revelations, rallied against the draconian forces. Zephyra, Jason, and their strike team joined the front line, leading the charge against the draconian defenses. The sounds of battle, explosions, blaster fire, and the clash of weapons filled the air. The Loyalists fought with unwavering determination, pushing back the draconian forces and reclaiming key positions within the city. In the midst of the chaos, Zephyra and Jason spearheaded an assault on the draconian command center. They fought their way through waves of soldiers, their movements precise and coordinated. The Loyalist forces followed their lead, dismantling enemy fortifications and securing strategic points. As they approached the central courtyard, they encountered the draconian leader, Lord Vargos, who had escaped captivity. Surrounded by his elite guard, Vargos stood ready for a final confrontation. Zephyra stepped forward, her eyes locked on her nemesis. "This ends now, Vargos," she declared, her voice resolute. Vargos drew his weapon, a wicked blade crackling with energy. "Indeed it does, Princess. But not in the way you hope." The final duel commenced, a fierce and brutal clash that showcased Zephyra's skill and determination. Jason and the strike team engaged Vargos's elite guard, preventing them from interfering. The battle raged on, with each side giving everything they had. Zephyra's movements were fluid and precise, her training and experience guiding her every strike. Vargos, despite his strength and cunning, found himself increasingly on the defensive. With a final decisive move, Zephyra disarmed Vargos and brought him to his knees. The Loyalist forces cheered as Vargos was taken into custody, signaling the end of draconian rule in the capital. The remaining draconian forces, demoralized and leaderless, surrendered or fled, leaving Zorathia free from their grasp. As the dust settled, Zephyra stood before the gathered loyalists and Terran Alliance members. "Today, we have reclaimed our home and our freedom," she announced, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "But our work is not done. We must rebuild and ensure that such tyranny never threatens our world again." Jason stepped forward, standing by her side. "And we will do it together, as allies and friends. Zorathia will rise from the ashes stronger than ever." The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the promise of a brighter future. Zephyra and Jason, their bond forged in the fires of battle, looked out over the liberated capital, knowing that their journey was far from over, but confident that they had the strength and unity to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The final battle had been won, but the real work, rebuilding and securing lasting peace, was just beginning. With the support of their allies and the resolve of their people, Zephyra and Jason were ready to lead Zorathia into a new era of hope and prosperity.